Good afternoon, everyone. Hello. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. I am so extremely excited to be here with you all today to welcome you to the press conference for the Free College for All Act. My name is Brianna Ross. It seems like you all are as excited as I am. But again, my name is Brianna Ross. I'm the current president of the United States Student Association. We are the nation's oldest and largest student-led organization dedicated to the fight for education justice, and have been fighting for education justice since 1947, and believe that education is a right and education should be free to all, regardless of race, class, background, or your socioeconomic status. So we are super excited to be here today, and I just wanted to share a couple of thoughts about the bill and about the current state of higher education. As I was saying, we believe that education is a right in this moment, and it is not a commodity. But unfortunately, the current reality is that the budget proposal that was released by President Donald Trump proposes over 13% in cuts to higher education, specifically proposing eliminating mandatory Pell, cutting the TRIO programs, making cuts to Gear Up, SEOG, and also Work Study. These cuts would be extremely detrimental to students of color and low-income folks. That is their pipeline to success and allows them to achieve and succeed in higher education. As you all may know, the student debt crisis is over $1.3 trillion. And the average student graduates with over $37,000 in student debt, making what many call the American dream near impossible. As a black woman who has made it to and through the higher education system, I know the importance of higher education to success and opportunity. We need the College for All Act to dismantle just one of the systems of oppression that prevents our communities from achieving and succeeding in higher education. The United States Student Association is proud to support the College for All Act alongside Senator Sanders, and will continue fighting for this with our organization. Thank you so much for joining us today.
Hello, everyone. My name is Jocelyn Garcia. I am the Vice President of the United States Student Association. So my parents are both immigrants from Mexico and Guatemala, and they came to this country believing that this was the land of opportunity. And they knew that education was a key pipeline to be able to have access to opportunity in this country. Now, my parents have never been to school once in their lifetime, and they still knew that education was important, and they knew that they wanted to see their daughter be a graduate from a university. Now, I am a proud alumni of the University of California, Santa Barbara. However, that journey was not an easy one. So tuition and fees are way too high, and because of that, I had to work at In-N-Out 6 days a week until 3 a.m. So I get out at 3 a.m., I have to do homework until 5 a.m., I'm expected to be in class at 8 a.m. until 6 p.m., then I have to go to meetings, and then I gotta do that all over again. What does that do? It impacts an individual's mental health, an individual's physical health. My GPA is not reflective of my intelligence or my capacity, but more so of the financial circumstances that my family finds itself. It is a reflection of this country and many others not seeing education as an investment of this country. Now, it is important that we represent everyone because education is an investment. And right now, President Donald Trump has released a budget proposal that creates significant cuts to education. That is a problem because that limits the opportunities that so many individuals from low-income marginalized communities will have. Programs such as Pell Grants, TRIO, Gear Up, these are programs that many individuals depend on. And without these programs, it puts individuals in this poverty cycle that they cannot get out of. And we find ourselves in a problem where it's not about how hard you work, but more so about structures being implemented that prevent you from achieving these opportunities. And it is important that we support pieces of legislation like the College for All Act, because this problem is much bigger than us. It's bigger than us in this room, and it's much larger than this generation. We have to think about the younger generations. I have to think about my 18-year-old brother and my 10-year-old brother and ensure that they can also receive access to higher education. And so because of this, I am a proud supporter of the College for All Act, and I look forward to working with Senator Sanders and his team and many others to ensure that education continues and remains to be a right for many more generations. Thank you so much.
Good afternoon. My name is Caitlin Thomas. I'm a registered nurse at MedStar Washington Hospital Center here in DC. I'm also a proud member of National Nurses United, the nation's largest union of registered nurses. So today's event is very personal for me. I graduated college in 2009, just after the economic collapse, with thousands of dollars in student loan debt. The only job I could get was working in a hospital laboratory that didn't provide health care benefits. I had doctor's bills I could not afford to pay, I could not afford rent, and I had to move back in with my parents. Eventually, I was able to go back to school and earn my nursing degree, but that meant even more student debt. It will be years before I'm able to pay off this debt, and I know that I'm not alone. There are tens of millions of people just like me, and this crushing debt is not bad just for those who want to further their education, it's bad for our economy. With a staggering $1.3 trillion in outstanding student debt, this is a crisis of very serious proportions. That's why I'm so proud today to represent my fellow nurses at National Nurses United to commend Senator Sanders for reintroducing his College for All Act and his Inclusive Prosperity Act in Senate, as well as Representative Jayapal for introducing the college bill today, and Representative Ellison for having already introduced the Inclusive Prosperity Act in the House. As patient advocates, we see firsthand the impacts of the economic crisis facing so many people in this country. We see the pain, the fear, the suffering. We see people who have to make a choice between paying rent and paying for their life-saving medications. The small tax on Wall Street speculators that is included in these bills will raise enough money not only for free tuition at public college and university, but for so much more, to help meet human needs like healthcare, housing, and job creation. I'm happy to say that this legislation is supported by 172 labor, student, civil rights, senior, health advocacy, religious, and community organizations that have united together in the Robin Hood tax campaign. National Nurses United strongly urges Congress to move swiftly to pass these bills into law. It's time to heal America.
I would like now to introduce Senator Bernie Sanders.
Thank you very much, and let me thank Brianna Ross and Jocelyn Garcia and Caitlin Thomas for their beautiful remarks. And to tell you, I'm a member of the committee. This is the hearing room for the Budget Committee, and I'm the ranking member of it, and I come here very often. But I've never been here at a time when I feel better with the people in the room than I do right now. Before I get into my remarks, I look out, and we all up here look at you, and you know what? We see the future of this country, and it is a beautiful future, because you are beautiful young people who are going to do the right thing for the United States of America. And I want to just tell all of you that you and millions of other young people have enormous power if you use that power by bringing people together and by standing up and by fighting back. And our job is not just to resist all of Trump's dumb proposals, including massive cuts in education, our job is to bring forward a progressive agenda which represents the young people and the old people and working people and poor people all over this country. Because when we stand together and not let Trump and his friends divide us up, frankly, there is nothing we cannot accomplish, and that's what we have to do together. And I want to thank the many co-sponsors we have in the U.S. Senate. You're going to hear from some of them in a moment, and the many co-sponsors we have in the House, and you're going to hear from Pramila in a moment. But I also want to thank you, the United States Students Association, the American Federation of Teachers, the National Education Association, the American Association of University Professors, the Asian American and Pacific Island Association of Colleges and Universities, the SEIU, the League of United Latin American Citizens, the National Nurses United, and each and every one of you and the many other organizations who are supporting this vitally important legislation. Now, as everybody here knows, we have a major crisis in the funding of higher education in this country. And as you've heard, this impacts not only your lives and the lives of millions of others, it impacts the future of our country. Everyone here knows that we are living in a highly competitive global economy, and our economy will not survive in the future unless we have the best educated workforce in the world. And here is the sad truth. The sad truth is that 30 or 40 years ago, we did have the best educated workforce in the world. Today, we do not. And I've been all over this country, and I've talked to a whole lot of young people. And there's nothing sadder to hear from than a young person who says, Senator Sanders, my dream is to go to college. I have the ability, I have the grades to go to college, but I'm one of the hundreds of thousands of bright young people who cannot afford to go to college. What a tragedy that is, not only for those young people, but for the future of this country. And then we talk to the millions of people who leave college $50,000, $60,000 in debt, leave graduate school hundreds of thousands of dollars in debt, and for decades, they are spending their time paying off those debts. Our job, if we are smart, is to do everything possible to make it easier for people to get the education they need, not harder for them to get that education. A hundred plus years ago, very brave people fought to bring about the concept of public education. And what they said is, yeah, I'm a working class person. I want my kid to be able to get a a high school education like any other person who has money. And they fought. And we established free public education from kindergarten through the 12th grade. And that was a great step forward. But you know what? The world has changed. And today, when we talk about public education, it is not good enough to just talk about kindergarten through the 12th grade. We have got to make public colleges and universities tuition free, and that is what this legislation is about. And we have got to substantially reduce the debt that people are leaving college with. And here is a reality that we have got to address. The United States, not so many years ago, led the world in terms of the percentage of young people who graduated college. We were number one. Today, we are in 11th place, behind Japan, South Korea, Canada, England, and a number of other countries. That is not a prescription for a strong American economy of the future. It is a prescription for failure, and together we are going to change that. Under the legislation that all of us are introducing today, children from any family making $125,000 or less, which is about 80% of our population, would be able to attend a public college or university free of tuition and fees. We will cut student loan interest rates in half by allowing Americans to refinance their debts at the lowest interest rates possible. And we are also going to take the federal government out of profiteering off working class families. And we're going to triple funding for the work-study program. And let us be clear, when you hear people who will oppose this legislation, this is not a radical idea. In 1965, average tuition at a four-year public university was just $256. At great schools like City University in New York and the State University in California, you know what tuition was? It was zero. If they could do it in the 60s, we could do it now. And again, not only are we trying to do what used to exist, what we are trying to do is what exists in smart countries all across this planet. In Germany, Finland, Denmark, Iceland, Norway, Sweden, and other countries, public colleges and universities are tuition-free. They are investing in their young people. We should be doing the same. Now, some people say that this legislation is expensive, and they're right, it is. How are we going to pay for it? Well, I'll tell you how we're going to pay for it. We are going to ask Wall Street to end their speculation. We're going to put a speculation tax on Wall Street. Now, Donald Trump thinks it's a great idea to give tax breaks to billionaires. Those of us who are up here think that in the midst of massive income and wealth inequality, those guys should start paying their fair share of taxes. All right, let me conclude in the way that I began. We're going to fight as hard as we can on Capitol Hill. But when you and millions of students stand up and you tell Trump and you tell the Republican leadership, sorry, we are not going to leave school $50,000 or $100,000 in debt when you give tax breaks to billionaires, ain't going to happen. And we're going to mobilize and we're going to organize and we're going to vote. Trust me, they will take notice. Now let me introduce a fellow senator who has been working on this issue from day one, since she has been a member of the Senate, one of our great leaders. Please welcome Elizabeth Warren.
Thank you. Wow, it is good to be here today with you, and it is good to be with Bernie. It is good to be with a room full of fighters. Are you ready to fight? Yeah. Absolutely. Look, we're here to talk about budgets, about where this country invests its money. We believe that we should be making investments that align with our values. And that means investing in opportunities to get an education without getting crushed by student loan debt. That's what we believe in. And that's what this plan is all about. College costs are spiraling out of control. A young person today, adjusted for inflation, pays more than 3 times what her parents paid a generation ago to go to a state school. Nearly 7 out of 10 Young people who graduate from state universities have to take on debt in order to do that. And we always stop to take a look at that debt. It is obscene that the United States government is making a profit off the backs of people who are trying to get an education. And that's why this plan has two basic parts. We will lower the cost of college and we will cut the cost of student loans. It's that simple. That's how we build a future. So that's what we believe about how to deal with college affordability. Let's pause for a minute to talk about what our Republican friends believe about college affordability. So far, Donald Trump has proposed that we cut Pell Grants, cut work study, cut other sources of help for students. And Republicans have voted against reducing the interest rate on student loans multiple times. So there it is. You bet, Shane. We want to cut the cost of student loans. We want to cut the cost of college. And the Republicans say, no, you got this backwards. College is working great right now for rich people, and the rest of you can just figure it out. That's their proposal, and that is why we are here to fight back. We are here to fight for our values. We are here to fight for opportunities for people to get an education without getting crushed by student loan debt. That's why we're here. Say on this one, I am in this fight all the way. And when I say all the way, I mean all the way. Because this is personal for me. I decided back when I was in second grade, I wanted to be a public school teacher. Can we hear it for public school teachers? God bless you. Dang. That's all I ever wanted to do. Mrs. Lee was my second grade public school teacher, and I was determined I was going to be a public school teacher. Now, that made life growing up a little different than it was for other kids. I was always trying to round up the neighborhood kids so we could play school. They were too fast for me. So I'd round up my dollies and lay them out. We'd do school. They were slow. And it was hard being one of my dolls. I mean, I routinely would say, I don't think you've done your homework. I really don't. But I stayed after him. By the time I was in high school, there was no chance that I was going to get to go to college. We didn't have the money for an application for college, much less the kind of money to send me off to college. My family had had a lot of ups and downs. My daddy ended up as a janitor. My mom ended up working a minimum wage job at Sears. And we were hanging on by our fingernails. But for me, the chance turned out to be a commuter college that cost $50 a semester. And that commuter college opened a door for me. And that door opened another and another. I am the daughter of a janitor who is a United States Senator because America invested in education for our kids. That's what it's about. I will be in this fight for educational opportunity from the minute I wake up in the morning until the time I go to bed at night. And I will do it today and tomorrow and next month and next year. And I've got fighters with me. But I understand we cannot do this alone. The way we make real change in this country is when all of us are in this fight. So I'm here today to just ask one thing. Are you ready to fight for real educational opportunity? Are you ready to fight for debt-free college? Are you ready to fight to cut the interest on student loans? Yes! That's what we got to do. So thank you. We're going to do this. And that means I'm calling on another fighters, Senator Blumenthal, who has been in this
Thank
from
you.
the beginning.
Thank you.
Let's go. I'm going to go to Purdue.
Yeah.
Right. Then we're going to go back and forth.
No, but no one in his right mind follows Bernie and Elizabeth. So I'm going to yield to one of our House colleagues. She can do her best, right?
Thank you so much. And yes, I'm always thrilled to be with this group of fighters. And boy, do we have the team. Senator Sanders, it is such an honor to be introducing this bill in the House with Keith Ellison, the chair of our Progressive Caucus, with Rick Nolan from the great state of Minnesota. And we have over a dozen members that are original co-sponsors, including Bobby Scott, who's the ranking member of the Workforce and Ed Committee. And you know, this is personal for me too. And it's personal for me because I was born in India. I came to the United States by myself as an immigrant at the age of 16. My parents had no money in their pocket, but they used their couple $1,000s to send me here because they felt like this was the place I was going to get the best education. Because we were, as Bernie Sanders said, the first in the world in terms of graduating people. And so I came here by myself, and it is amazing now to be the first Indian American woman in the House of Representatives. But most importantly, to be here with the campaign promise that I came with, that I was going to introduce this bill. It's been incredible to work with Senator Sanders, Elizabeth Warren, and everybody that's been working on this bill, because we know that there is a crisis in public education. You know, my parents used to tell me, if you want a good job, then go get a college education. And if you get a college education, you will get a good job and you'll be able to take care of your family. But the unfairness of it is that we no longer are in a situation where we had that free college. We knew what to do before. We did it. We invested in Pell Grants. We invested in the GI Bill. We invested in free college in places like City University of New York and the University of California system because we knew that an investment in education paid dividends for everybody. We knew that with a higher education, you could get a better job. And more trained workers meant more jobs filled. And more jobs meant more money back into the economy. And of course, better jobs ultimately meant that you could do better for your own family. That was a cycle of prosperity. And we have lost that cycle of prosperity. And today, because of that, we are 11th, as Senator Sanders said, in the world. 11th. We have $1.3 trillion in student loan debt. That's more than the credit card debt that we have. And we no longer cover tuition in the way that we used to. And so today, 82% of our students who go to public universities come out with debt, anywhere from $30,000 to $100,000. I'll tell you, since we've been working on this and through the campaign, story after story about dreams that have not been fulfilled, about families delayed, about choices that were made about whether somebody was going to get breast cancer surgery or pay their student loan. That is just wrong. We can do better, and we must do better. And we know that low-income folks and communities of color are especially hard hit. But this bill is not rocket science. This bill is not rocket science. What it is saying this is the promise we have to fulfill. We are going to make sure that we actually make tuition free and fee free for all of our families up to $125,000. That covers about 80% of our students. We're going to do that. We're going to do it. And we're going to make sure that we cut our debt. Because it is ridiculous that we're profiting, as Senator Warren said, off of student loans, and we're going to make sure that we cut that rate in half and that we allow people to refinance their college debt just like we do our houses and a lot of other things. So that's really important, and so is the tripling of investments into TRIO and work-study programs, because we know that when we target investments towards first in the family to go to college and towards low-income students, we all succeed. Now, I like to say that this bill creates a new normal. There is nothing normal about graduating with massive student debt, where you live in fear of predatory debt collectors and wage garnishers that have been contracted out, by the way, by the federal government. That is wrong, and it's not normal. There is nothing that is normal about not being able to have a family or buy a house or buy a car because you've spent years trying to pay off your loan. And there's nothing normal about not being able to refinance your student loan. So the stories that I've heard, and I just want to tell you a couple of them. We got so many in when we said we were going to do this bill with Senator Sanders. The stories that I've heard are horrifying. Lillian, who made every payment on time until she ended up in the hospital with heart failure and had to choose between paying her health care bills or paying her student loans. So she went into default because she decided to take care of her heart. Teresa, who's 57 years old, and by the way, the fastest growing group of people with student loans are elder adults because they're taking on loans for their kids and their grandkids. So here's what Teresa said. Either I manage to work another 20 years and somehow manage to pay the damn thing off, or I die or become disabled and it gets discharged. Susan, who's a public school teacher and has over $80,000 in student loan debt and is dealing with the sale of her loans to predatory lenders, and she's terrified that she's going to be homeless. Sydney, who's the first to go to college, a National Merit Scholar with a physical disability, can't make her payments or fulfill her dream of being a civil rights lawyer. That is not right, and we are ready to end that. And when I've talked about this bill today and in the past week, some people say to me, well, do you really think it's going to happen? Well, let me tell you, do you really think that people thought we could defeat the repeal of the Affordable Care Act last week? And we did it, right? So I've been a lifelong organizer, and here's what I say. The legislation is one piece, but now we need voices across the country. We need rallies and organized events at every college campus across the country. And we need to make sure that we put that political pressure on and demand that we do what is right by passing this bill. And now, okay, and now it's a great pleasure to introduce Senator Richard Blumenthal. Thank you.
Thank you all. Well done. Thank you. You know, I would love to be able to tell you that every day in the United States Senate is a wonderful day. Not so much. Today is a wonderful day because of you. Your being here is really profoundly inspiring to all of us because you are the ones who are going to get it done. I would love for us to be able to take credit for defeating the Trump Care bill that melted down in the House of Representatives, but it wasn't the politicians, it was the people. That's right. Citizen advocates and advocates. You did it. You did it, and you're going to do it here again. And I know that because at the end of the day, this bill is about everyone's best interest. It really is about eliminating that debt that's an overhang and a drag on the economy. It depresses people's ability to buy new homes and start families and new businesses that employ people. So everybody wins if this bill wins. And the second point is, you know, Donald Trump wants to spend $54 billion more on our national defense, right? Well, here is a message for Donald Trump. Education is part of our national security. We cannot be strong. We can't be strong and powerful. We can't be secure if some of the best people, young people, aren't able to achieve the skills and make the contributions that we need from them. If you build submarines or fighter planes or tanks, you need skilled people to do it. If you want to develop the newest technology in healthcare, you need skilled people to do it. You need that education to continue at the head of the world economy. And so, Donald Trump, we're not talking about Trump University. We are talking about investing. It's not spending, it's not money, it's not funding, it is investing in the future of our country by making it possible for everybody to have a fair shot at college. And just one last point. You know, everybody talks these days about the quality of life in this country. And people ought to be concerned in the greatest nation in the history of the world about income and wealth inequality and income and wealth insecurity. But I think income and wealth equality begin with educational equality, giving everybody a chance. And my dad also came to this country with virtually not much more than the shirt on his back. He knew no one, and he spoke almost no English. He came from Germany in 1935, and he too, well, he was 17. And this country gave him a chance to succeed. Now, he never went to college. I was the first male in my family to go to college. I wouldn't be standing here if that weren't made possible for me. For all of us, when you think about it, for all of us, this is personal. This is our future as a nation, our future as families, and our futures as individuals. Let's make it happen. Thank you.
We have two great congressmen from the great state of Minnesota. Please welcome Congressman Rick Nolan.
Well, thank all of you for being here. As Senator Sanders pointed out, you are not only the face of democracy, but the face of the future. Hats off to you. You're the ones that are going to make this happen. So I'd like to begin by thanking Senator Sanders for his incredible aspirational, inspirational leadership on this critical issue, and of course all my colleagues for joining in behind him. But give him a big hand. He's been incredible. Well, let me just say that there are a few things in life that are more comforting and than having a good job with a living wage and knowing you're going to have health care for your family and knowing that you might even have a good pension someday when it comes to retiring. Those are the things that create a sense of well-being among people. And fundamental to all of that is a good, high-quality educational system at every level. And that's what this tuition-free legislation is really all about. It's about creating and laying the foundation for people to feel good and have a sense of well-being in their personal lives. And also, you know, having a nation that has prepared its future generation for the kind of jobs and economic development and well-being and prosperity that has marked the progress of this country for so many years. Senator Sanders pointed out what it cost to go to school here a generation or two ago. And what he was talking about is your grandparents' time. That's right. You could get a good education at a college or a technical school, public of your choice, at an affordable rate. I think, Senator Sanders, you talked about back then the cost of an education was a day's or an hour's daily wages. You could get a job for the summer and pay for your education all year long. Today it costs you 20 hours of daily wages to pay for your education. Well, that's just not doable. It's not possible. And do you know what that affordable, virtually free education in the past did for people in this country? It doubled life expectancies. Maybe one of the great accomplishments of all time. In addition to that, yes, it did. It created a middle class that became a model